Hello and welcome back to the Funday podcast, the official podcast of the Wild Wild West. I am your host, Commissioner Coates, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by our first playoff member of the standing series and my fellow Sneech, Dawson Taylor. How are you, Dawson?
Much better now, Commish. Much better now. Got my schedule finally released. I get to start the season with my rival Granbury, who I am 5-1 against, I think, the last 3 years. And then, of course, I get to start after that with one of the more infamous non-Sneeches, Q Williamson. So I appreciate that little setup for the start of my season there.
Yeah, it sounds like an easy 2-0 for you there.
It does sound like an easy 2-0. I agree.
So what's going on outside of baseball? Give the people an update.
Outside of baseball, so I did get engaged within the last couple months. So that's exciting. I'm very excited.
Didn't know that.
You didn't know?
Congratulations! You didn't say. No.
I'm sorry. Yeah. But yeah, that did happen a couple months ago, so that's exciting. But other than that, outside of baseball, I mean, I really just got sports going on. So I've been watching a lot of tennis, betting on a lot of tennis. It's going well. I love tennis. Played tennis in high school, so I do have a love for the sport. But yeah, I'm rekindling my enjoyment for it now that sports betting is legal in the state of Ohio. I don't live quite in Ohio, but I do live. You can see the skyline out that window, but
I didn't know you were a tennis guy.
I love
so
tennis.
That makes sense why you, I've heard you're a good pickleball player. Let's put that to the test.
Yeah, I'm decent at pickleball. I do love pickleball. I love it. I finally got to play for the first time this past weekend, but it was not.
Oh, you hadn't played before?
No, I hadn't played yet this year.
Oh, this year. I gotcha.
Yeah, but I did finally get to play it.
Very nice.
And it was fantastic. The weather was amazing.
Yeah, if it's nice on the 25th, we might have to make that happen. Get a little league pickleball sesh going.
I know. I would definitely do pickleball. I mean, we got to get that golf outing in too. But
oh, sure.
If we could do Friday night basketball, followed by poker, and then like a golf outing Saturday morning, and maybe pickleball after the golf outing, I don't think I'd be too tired.
Until 8:30 because of fucking Chuck. Yeah.
I know. Chuck sucks. What are we gonna do with our boy named Chuck?
Don't know. Might have to just join him next year down in Arizona.
Yeah, that would be sick. That'd be awesome. Not as awesome as when he went 1-15, but yeah.
All right, let's get to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so you, I think, have been a playoff team every year since we started the Wild Wild West. Is that correct?
It's not quite correct because 2 years ago, I had the playoffs locked, or I should have had the playoffs locked in the second to last week, but I forgot to sit players. And so my players ended up doing really bad just on some shit on Sunday Night Baseball. And
but that was COVID season?
No, that was 2021. That was the year after COVID season. So it was still, baseball was still not baseball. So, I mean, if you want to give me that leeway, I'll take it. But I did not make the playoffs that year. That was
Okay,
tragic.
so you made it almost every year except for one on kind of a fluke kind of thing.
That's true.
But
That's true.
despite making the playoff almost every year, you've had little to no playoff success. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I'd say it's closer to no. I haven't won a playoff match yet. Yeah, I don't know. The squad does seem to typically crumble that time of year, at least for that week. I think based on your notes you sent a couple weeks ago, I have the third highest regular season win percentage. Third highest regular season win percentage among all 12 owners. But I do crumble when it comes to being clutch. So we're hoping to turn that narrative around this year. There's other guys around the league that you've interviewed already that are trying to break a narrative of, like not being last. You still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just lost your video, but that's okay. There's other guys around the league that are trying to fix a narrative of like not being in last, and guys trying to fix a narrative of not being able to make the playoffs. So it's not the worst out there, but it's definitely humbling that I cannot seem to advance past that point. I did have 2 straight second place regular season finishes by half a game back in the day. That would have given me, an automatic bye had I made up those half games, but that wouldn't have really even counted anyways as advancing in the playoffs. So whatever. I will make that fix this year.
What are you going to do differently to make sure that happens?
Well, 2 years ago, the 1 year that I missed the playoffs, I really kind of went ballsy on my strategy that year. Obviously, trading for, I think it was 3 of the first 5 picks, and it was 1 and 2. I had Acuna and Tatis and DeGrom.
The trio.
The trio. The trio was fire. All of whom went out for either the year or basically the fantasy year within a week and a half of each other. I was 9-2 and 2. I think 9-2 and 2 when the last remaining member of the trio got hurt, and it was definitely a downward spiral after that. But last year, I kind of went a little bit more for depth instead of stars because of that happening to me. And I just don't think that I had the tools I needed for my weekly strats to weekly strategies to get that done. So this year we've kind of gone back towards looking for star power, but we've got a lot more depth than we're used to when we usually have that star power. So if a couple of guys get injured, God forbid, but I think we'll be plenty prepared to back that up moving forward this year.
You're just trying to go for more of a balance.
And like some trends have to come back my way, like not being able to beat Austin Hardley. Like everybody beats Austin Hardley besides me. So like, stuff like that, I feel like that's got to kind of start to go my way. And, should kind of even itself out. I think the 2 to 3 years of having great numbers in the regular season means that my weekly strategy is successful if I have the right tools. The third highest win percentage, in the regular season. I'm successful if I have the right tools, but it's about making sure that I have those right tools at the end of the season, not just in the beginning of the season.
Sure. So when we think of the biggest rivalries in the league, our minds typically go to Brock versus Carlin or me versus Nikki. But I think people sleep on the Taylor Bowl, you versus Connor. That's not even a rivalry week matchup. Can you tell me a little bit about that rivalry and what that matchup means to
Um, I don't know if I'd really consider it much of a rivalry. I kind of beat up on Connor usually. He is a little snake, that's for sure. Um, he's just done some sketchy shit in past seasons, like verbally accepting trades and then waiting to the last minute when they can't be accepted anymore so that you don't trade with somebody else. He just pulls shady shit like that.
you?
And then he's definitely done some other shit. But no, I wouldn't consider it much of a rivalry. I did consistently give him shit for that last year, and so it was fun to beat up on him last year after he did that to me. But yeah, I don't know. I think based on the league history, I'm like his toughest opponent that he faces. So Connor's the least of my worries. I'm just trying to win a ring, and that means beating the likes of like you and Nikki, and I'll say Henry, even though I am his toughest opponent as well, but he's definitely up there.
So Connor's not even worth the time of day in your. He's not good enough to take up any space in Dawson.
I'll say Connor's a quality owner, that's for sure. He's definitely in the upper echelon, but like I'm far more worried about Brock every season than I am Connor.
So, interesting.
Yeah.
Are you saying Brock should be a sneak over Connor?
I wouldn't say that because Connor does unfortunately have a ring and I do not. So, and I think his regular season win percentage is up there too. He's just, for whatever reason, I just can't overcome that playoff picture that Connor has once overcome. So I wouldn't say that he should be a sneak over Brock, but I think, if I have to predict the next 5 seasons regular season win percentage, I'm going to go Brock will be at least 5 to 6% higher over that time period than Connor moving forward.
All right, we'll have to track that. Make a note of that.
Connor was also more experienced back when the Wild West was getting started than I think the average baseball player. But I think majority of the league has caught up to him, other than people that lag behind every year. So.
All right, let's get into your hypothetical question of the week. You have to form a dangerous Knights crew with 3 of the biggest pieces of shit in the league. I'm talking Glass House, White Ferrari, Live for New Year's Eve, Sloppy Steaks at Trufani's, Big Rare Cut of Meat with water dumped all over it, splashing around on the table. Who are you slopping them up with, and why?
Who am I slopping my steaks up with?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who am I going to sloppy my steaks up with? I do love some sloppy steaks. Let's get that straight. So within this league, I definitely have, a couple of guys that I have either known for a little bit longer or just, we've really bonded over some shit. Henry and I lived together our last 3 years of school. Henry and I have done too much buffoonery together, and that hasn't included sloppy steaks yet, but I want to throw the yet on there because Henry and I can get into some shit together. I could definitely see us slopping some steaks up.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do that with him. Cranberry's an easy one. I don't think that there's ever been one guy that I've known that I clicked with like fucking that in such a short span of time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my boys from back in Cincinnati that I grew up with, like my boy Woody that we got sat together on the first day of kindergarten by the bus driver. Yeah, that motherfucker and I are still like that. So Uh, I definitely say, but me and Graham just hit it off. Like, I'm pretty sure he just came to Lexington one time, like my freshman year, probably, because I was already hanging out with all of those guys. And yeah, it was like we had known each other for 10 years from the get go. So I love that man, Granberry. I'm going to add him to the list. And I can't forget my boy Nicky as well. Nicky is just the sloppiest of them all. He's just a sloppy guy, you know? So if I was going to go sloppy some steaks up with somebody, I got to have the king of the slop there. He's like, you know, some people call him like the dustiest, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He is kind of dusty too. But
For sure.
some people call him the dust ball. But no, I would definitely sloppy some steaks up with Nicky, Henry, and Graham. That would be my squad, my sloppy squad.
It's a great answer. And two of the three have seen the sketch and are part of that culture, so it just works.
Yes,
Great
I
lineup.
agree. Who's the one that hasn't? Is it Henry or Nicky?
I don't think Nicky. I'm just assuming because he doesn't watch TV. So
Yeah, Nicky doesn't watch TV. I don't know what he does besides. What does he do? What does Nicky do?
that's a great question. He walks up the stairs, and I think he
Uh,
watches the Bulls. I think that's about it.
yeah, I mean, he definitely walks upstairs. We know that he is Slim Nicky now. That's for sure.
Big facts.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any bold predictions for the 2023 fantasy season?
Bold predictions. So I definitely think I definitely don't think that we're gonna have any playoff turnover this year. I think the playoffs will be the exact same teams from last year. Um, so that would be myself, Chuck, you, Coates, Henry, Brock,
Nicky, Connor,
Nicky, and Connor.
the Sneetches,
So
and
yeah, the Sneetches and Brock. I don't see any of those other people sneaking in. I would love to say that I think my man Granberry would make a resurgence this year and get himself back into the playoffs. But I unfortunately am honestly one of the people that do not love his picks whatsoever. I don't, and he says his picks are the same as Chuck's. You know, Chuck's are definitely better in most spots, but I don't love his picks either. So if there was one player that I think might slip out of the playoffs that was in it last year, it would be Chuck.
if you had to choose one team that was not in the playoffs last year, who do you think is most likely to make that jump this year?
So I'm going to say probably either Austin Hardley or Chris Carlin. And the reason for me saying Carlin is because he does have a decent amount of top 100 picks. However, if 10 out of the 12 other people, if 9 out of the other 11 people in the league had those picks, I'd probably like guarantee them to make the playoffs. But since Carlin has them, and A, he's a terrible drafter, and B, he's not that very good of an in-season manager, I don't really expect him to get in. Hardly. I do kind of like his picks. I mean, he's got like what, 3 top 5s or 3? He's got, yeah,
First
3,
round.
5, and 6 to pick. And then he didn't sell himself terribly short on his depth coming up behind that. He's got 3 firsts and then 3 fifth rounders and then a 9, 10, 11, 11. So if he manages that well, if he drafts well, first of all, he does have a lot of gaps, but if he drafts well when it's his turn and can figure out his in-season management, which we haven't seen yet, he could sneak in there. He could sneak in there. I wouldn't be overly shocked, but
Can Carlin succeed without you as his co-manager?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I've already texted him once again this year after he asked me a question. I told him, yeah, no, I'm still not helping you because he wins that championship, and I mean, I'll openly admit he did the majority of the work on his own, but what he did, and he'll refuse to acknowledge this, even though I had just acknowledged that, but he was texting me maybe once or twice a week, maybe once, at least once every other week, about a starting pitcher decision or a trade decision or something like that. And I did kind of give him my feedback a lot. Sometimes I would tell him I didn't know, but then he wins that bullshit ring on the luckiest thing you've ever seen against Nikki in the championship.
0.003%.
Yeah, and then he proceeded to talk mass shit to me about how he won that ring, despite knowing that I was so kindly offering any advice that I could give him. And so then the following year, I took that privilege away from him, and we all know what happened. He was a half game out of last place. So,
Yep.
so yeah, he's a clown, but I do think he has a chance to make the playoffs, but I just don't see it. Like, as everyone knows, I already bet him a decent amount of money that he would not finish top 5 in the regular season this year, and only the top 7 make the playoffs. So,
yeah, I like that bet. I feel like you're going to get the payoff on that.
yeah, that's going to be tough.
Well, Dawson, do you have any last words before we sign off here?
Last words. Well, I definitely wish everyone luck this year. I'm definitely going 2-0 against Austin Hardley this year, so he can enjoy the end of that little narrative of his. I definitely plan to continue my dominance against Connor Taylor. And I definitely look forward to making some noise in the playoffs this year. And with the number 2 pick, I'm very excited about the guy that I plan to have this year coming up, as well as moving on into the future, as we're now a keeper league, which I'm very, very excited for. I've been pushing hard for that for the last 4 years or so, and finally got the majority of league members on board. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to making some noise. Definitely going to beat Hardy's ass. Definitely going to stomp Connor per usual. And I'd like to keep the streak going against Henry too. And of course, Granberry is my rival. I love him so much, but he's got to keep getting smacked too. So, yeah.
Do you want to hold yourself accountable against Austin? Go 2-0 or do some kind of punishment?
He's been beating me. It's not like we've been tying. Well, I think we're 0. I think I'm 1-3-2 against him the past 3 years. 1-3-2. So he will not beat me this year. I can guarantee he won't beat me. If he does beat me, if he just gets one win against me this year, I will cover $50 of his entry fee next year.
All right, I love it.
If he beats me one time,
$50 to Austin's entry fee next year if he
and
wins.
I'll add that to if I don't beat him one time. So if I don't beat him, get an outright dub against him, or if he doesn't, or if he gets an outright dub against me, I'll cover 50 of his entry fee next year.
There we go. Love it. I'll add it to the notes.
Let's get it.
All right, Dawson, thank you for your time. Good luck this season.
I would say go Reds, but nobody needs to hear that anymore. Especially as long as the Castellinis are around. So
Sell the Reds. That's what we'll say.
I will, buddy. Thanks, Commish.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
See you, bye.